religious. O Heavenly King, Comforter, Spirit of Truth, who art everywhere present, fill us all things, treasury of blessing, giver of life, come and abide in us, cleanse us from every stain of sin, and save our souls, O good one.
Thank you so much, Father Thomas, for welcoming me to your parish, and Andy for helping coordinate all of this. My name is Kira Limbarakis, and I serve as, the Chief Operating Officer for Orthodox Volunteer Corps, which is one of the newest agencies of the Assembly of Bishops. But at a high level, what we are about is creating a national movement of young adults who are leading transformative service for the church and the world. And the way in which we do that is by developing and equipping young adults to lead lives of faithful service for the church and the world. So we're talking with the vision. It's like this big national movement. Our mission is to develop and equip young adults. But how do we do that? Our program is a 10-month immersive experience for Orthodox young adults ages 21 to 29 to spend time immersing themselves in 4 key pillars: service, formation, community, and church. And I'll say a bit about each of those. So if you are familiar with programs like AmeriCorps or the Peace Corps or the Jesuit Volunteer Corps, Teach for America, are any of you familiar with these programs? So like a gap year service program for young adults to commit themselves to a life of service. So this is a model that has existed for over 40 years in both Christian spaces and secular spaces. The Orthodox Church has never had anything like this before. And so OVC is responding to a great need, which is the opportunity for young adults who we have gathered are hungry to serve and make an impact on our world. I think there is not just a narrative, but the reality that young people are leaving the church, young adults in particular, in this age range of 21 to 29. But myself and my colleague and the other folks who were part of developing Orthodox Volunteer Corps were also seeing that young adults really wanted to serve. And they were serving in so many other spaces, often outside of the church. But the church is the home for service, right? We look within our own tradition and we see the examples of St. Basil and what he did in New Caesarea, creating orphanages and hospitals. We see more modern examples like St. Maria of Paris. She's a radical advocate for the poor. So we know that the church has a lot to offer has everything to offer when it comes to how we serve and love our neighbor, especially our neighbors who are most vulnerable. So I say all of that to kind of ground us in why Orthodox Volunteer Corps was developed. The way it works practically is young adults who are accepted to the program spend 10 months doing a few key things. The first is service. That is central to the program. And the way that it works is that young adults are paired, they're matched with a nonprofit that we have vetted and secured and made sure that they're a good place for a young adult to serve, say a homeless shelter or after-school programs in more troubled neighborhoods. So they work 4 days a week at this nonprofit, getting professional experience, doing the direct service with these vulnerable communities, and getting wonderful supervision from leaders at the nonprofit who can really guide them through the ins and outs of how nonprofits work. So there's tremendous professional experience that emerges from it. But we know that service is not enough. We have to understand, why do we serve? What is the meaning of our service, and how do we understand it as Orthodox Christians? So the 5th day of a week, every Friday, we have a seminar. And it takes place both in the house that they live in, which I'll share about that in a moment. And sometimes it takes place in the city. We use the city as our classroom. And so every Friday we gather to check in and ask them, like, how was your week? What happened? Who did you encounter this week? What ways were you surprised? What were challenges? How do you see your faith interacting with the service that you're doing and the people who you're serving? But we also talk about leadership, and what does it mean to lead in these spaces effectively? What does it mean to lead in a Christian manner? What does it mean to look at a community from an assets-based perspective? That's a type of leadership that we've been really interested in, asset-based community development, where instead of looking at a community and the ways in which it might be deficient and struggling, what are the assets that this community has? So we're challenging the young adults to think about, in particular, the communities that they're serving with the richness and the blessing that exists within it. So that's the second component. So the first is service, the second is formation, the third is community. So the young adults who are part of this program actually live together in an intentional community in a house that we provide for them. We have 6 of them in the house now. They're bathrooms for boys and girls, so we make sure that there are certain expectations within the house. But it has been beautiful to see the young adults who are part of our inaugural cohort just really living in a Christian community. They cook their meals together, they pray together, they've developed particular community norms that work for their particular cohort. And they're able to come home to each other when they've had long days and be supportive of one another, which has just been so beautiful for them, especially in an age when I know young people feel this way in particular because I've worked in youth ministry for a long time, but I think a lot of us feel a sense of loneliness and isolation. And so the fact that there is this deep community has just been a real gift to them. And then undergirding it all is the church. That's the fourth pillar, engaging in the life of the church. And so we have launched the program in Pittsburgh, though folks can apply from anywhere in the country. And we intentionally met with as many clergy and hierarchs in Pittsburgh as we could before we started, so that they knew that the young adults were going to be there, and they've just been so supportive of the young adults. And our cohort has decided to attend St. Moses the Black Antiochian Orthodox Church. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's attached to the Neighborhood Resilience Project, which is an Orthodox social service agency. I know I'm saying a lot of words, and we'll have time I'd love to hear questions. But they have really engaged in the life of this parish. They've also gone to a couple others because they wanted to feel out, what community they would connect with. And we really wanted to leave that up to them to decide how they would engage parish life and which church they would go to, because it's pan-Orthodox. We didn't want to say, oh, you have to go to this parish or that parish. We wanted to create the conditions in which the young adults would not only want to, participate in the life of the church, but really just engage in it fully, and we've seen that. So that's a bit about our full-time program. As I said, it's for Orthodox young adults 21 to 29, and we're currently accepting applications for our second cohort, which would begin this fall. You can apply online, and for those of you who are eligible age, if this is something that might be of interest to you, I encourage you to consider the opportunity. The last thing I will say is that we know that it's not possible for every young adult to commit 10 months of their life to a program like this. You oftentimes have to be at a particular point, maybe graduating from school, or maybe you're in a job that you're feeling pretty dissatisfied with and want to take time to discern your vocation and your purpose in life. And so OVC is great for folks who are kind of at this crossroad in their life. But we've learned that there are a lot of young adults who are interested in serving in community. And so starting this fall in Pittsburgh, where we have our full-time program, we're launching a part-time program. And that will be for young adults to participate in evening seminars with us, to engage in episodic service opportunities, to connect with the full-time program so that there's a sense of community, and engage in the life of the church. So really, as a new program, we just started, we're hosting our inaugural cohort in Pittsburgh. Our goal is to really expand our reach fivefold. And then the long-term plan is that OVC expands across the country to multiple cities, so that There's an OVC house, an Orthodox Volunteer Corps house in
Pomona, California.
Pomona, California. That's right. So before I open it up for questions, I'd like to show just a quick video. Oops. So this is, thank you so much. And I'll pass these out because everyone wants some. This is a video we were able to, oh, thank you. Yes. So,
I didn't see the video.
oh, sure. Well, I'm happy to send that link.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is you can get a glimpse of the first year of the program. Can you see it okay?
Orthodox Volunteer Corp is an intensive investment in young adults, providing young adults with an opportunity to serve, to deepen their faith, to live in community, and to engage the church.
What would happen if we formed young adults into the types of people who not only cared about issues like homelessness, but had direct experience serving these populations?
So we know there's a narrative that Orthodox young adults are leaving the church, but we also know that young adults want to serve. We know that the church wants to retain young adults, and yet there are not enough opportunities for young adults to serve in the church. That's why OVC exists.
I was looking for a way to completely immerse myself in faith and service.
At the time, I was like, this feels like this program was like designed for exactly what I've been wanting and needing.
The 4 pillars of the program are service, formation, community, and church, and each of them build off of one another. So the structure of the program is such that 4 days a week they work at a nonprofit that they've been placed at.
So I'm working at a homeless drop-in center, and I'm encountering a lot of people from a lot of walks of life that I've not had prior experience with. So it's been a really long journey of like learning how to relate to them and learning how to value them as a person made in the image of God.
There's deep learning in being able to encounter our neighbors, especially our neighbors who are most vulnerable. There are all kinds of struggles involved when you're trying to walk in solidarity with those who are struggling in communities. So it's very critical that we have a community of support, a place where young adults can feel that they belong.
We go out to our placements in the day and then we come back together and kind of reconnect, and we'll have dinner and we'll do compline and talk through days with one another.
We've all grown to be brothers and sisters, which is really great.
And so OVC is an integration of service and faith, and all in the context of community.
I think before coming to OVC, I wasn't engaging in the life of the church as intentionally as I am now.
It's like my whole life has been impacted.
Every Friday, we have a full-day interactive seminar.
Seminar for OVC is a critical component of integrating all of the different pieces of the program. So we talk about faith, we talk about service, we talk about community, and we talk about leadership.
Being Christian is really just about loving God and loving your neighbor.
Doing this program has kind of made me realize like, no, like my home is in the church. I don't know what I'd do if it wasn't ministry.
If you're wanting to put your faith in action, absolutely, this is for you.
We want to cultivate their lifelong engagement in service and in the church.
We can be an organization that helps to spark this movement of Orthodox young adults who want to serve with the most vulnerable members of our community and are deeply rooted in the Orthodox faith.
All right, so that is Orthodox Volunteer Corps. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear me, explain a bit about it. I'm happy to answer Any questions about anything?
What is the plan for growth and expansion?
Sure.
In the next 5 years or so? I mean, if tentatively, of course.
Yep. So we're in year 2 of a 4-year strategic plan, though of course we have a much,
Yeah.
our goal is longer than 4 years. So in year 4, the plan is to expand to Boston.
Okay.
And the way it works is in any city that we go to, there's a 3-year strategy. The first year is like research the viability of the program expanding there, raise funds to support the expansion of the program, develop relationships with parishes, with nonprofits, and really just, and recruit young adults. We would need to make sure that we have enough young adults who can fill, the addition of another city. So that's the first year. The second year is we launch a full-time program in that city, and as part of our expansion model, it's really important to us that there is at least a part-time staff member in any city that we expand to, because we know it's important for there to be on-the-ground support for these young adults, especially it's, an intense program. And then in year 3 of, each city kind of strategy, it's continue to run the full-time program and then launch the part-time program, so that there's this beautiful integration of, full-time young adults who can do this program, and then part-time young adults who are interested. And then full-time and part-time just continues. So in terms of, a 5-year strategy, by year 5, the plan is to have 2 full-time programs and part-time programs running.
Right.
One in Pittsburgh, one in Boston. And then we, thank God, have had a lot of interest in expanding to other cities. So that's been encouraging to see that there's a lot of interest.
Yeah.
And Pomona would be an ideal place.
It would, just throwing it out there.
Well, I'd love
I mean,
to hear
there's
more.
there are some organizations. There's an organization called Pomona Hope.
Mm-hmm.
It's already doing stuff like that. There's an organization down, I forget what it's called, that they do. They're already organizing. So there are
Right.
organizations already to
Right,
push people through.
that's great.
And it's cheaper here than it is in other parts. Although it's expensive.
Yeah, I think, it sounds like, enough of a population center to have an adequate number of opportunities for the young people, to get connected. And then I would also imagine, enough of a local church base, to be able to, support everybody spiritually as an important aspect of it, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
And we have that, just FYI.
Yes,
So, yeah.
no, it's wonderful.
Yeah. We'll be the West Coast expansion.
There's a lot of interest in the West Coast.
Good,
But one way before that time comes, because I want to say that it won't come, if there are young adults in your community that you know of, either this parish or neighboring parishes, young adults who you think would be a good fit for this program, one way that you can get involved is to actually nominate them for the program. And it's a very simple form. It's not like a recommendation letter. All you have to do is put your, their name and email address so that we can contact them, and then we reach out to them and say, hey, you've been nominated by so-and-so. And really, we believe that the transformation that's happening in these young adults in their development, professionally, spiritually, emotionally, in all ways, will then ultimately, they'll be able to bring that back to the parish, and God willing, infuse, an energy to the parish, especially an energy towards helping the parish engage in service in a more intentional way. I think part of how this all started, because it was just an idea about 3 years ago, was there were a bunch of leaders from within the Orthodox community, each of whom worked with either an Orthodox social service agency or with a ministry that in some way touched the life of someone experiencing homelessness. So there was a gathering of folks from the Orthodox community to address the crisis of homelessness and say, what can the Orthodox Church be doing better to address this crisis? And one of the ideas that kept emerging was, well, what if, like, our parishes need people who've had direct experience working with these populations, and not just in an episodic way, but really have immersed themselves in a life of service working with a population like, you know, the homeless. And so everyone kept saying, like, we need like a volunteer corps, we need to develop young adults into this, other churches have this, da 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 da. So then the Assembly of Bishops, who helped kind of convene that gathering, said, well, this is a great idea, you guys should run with it, form a working group and research the possibility of making it happen. And in 2 years, a bunch of volunteers, myself, my colleague Michael, and several others, you know, put together a plan, formed a board, became a official nonprofit, raised funds, became an agency of the Assembly of Bishops, and then recruited young adults and launched this first program. So it's just really been a very, you know, a labor of love, but a you know, labor of prayer and great blessing, which is such a joy.
So how much is the expense for the person going? How many people are in the house? I know you said 6, but how?
Sure,
How big
sure.
is
Yep.
it?
So this is some of the details. So it actually doesn't cost anything to participate. We wanted to make it as feasible as possible for folks to engage in the program. In the second half of the year, we encourage them to, as a community, fundraise for the next year's cohort. But it's not a requirement, it's just an encouragement. And also we're trying to give them, you know, some tools and, you know, best practices in Christian fundraising, which I know is something that, you know, like Angie cares a lot about. So, so that's a part of it, but it's not a requirement. Every month, the Corps members receive a modest living stipend of $800 a month, but we cover their housing. So we calculated the $800 a month based on cost of living in Pittsburgh, transportation, and food. And we've been told from the cohort that stipend has been perfectly reasonable and like manageable for them. It was important to us as part of the model that they were striving to live a more like simple, modest life, especially because they're serving more vulnerable populations. So we didn't want there to be such a disconnect between, you know, the way that they're living and the communities that they're serving. So they receive a modest living stipend. If needed, we're able to help them with health insurance if they're not covered. And OBC is a program that would qualify them for student loan deferment, which we would then accompany them through the process of applying for that student loan deferment. A lot of programs like this qualify students for that. So those are some of the kind of logistical benefits to the program.
And how big, you said there's 6 people, but
Right.
how big can it grow to?
So in this house in Pittsburgh, the most we can fit comfortably is 8.
Okay.
And I think for a small community, an intentional living community, 8 is kind of a big number
Sure.
for,
Yeah.
you know, 8 young adults to be living together. So we really don't want to, like if there were so many, we would need to get another house in Pittsburgh where we've launched. So
It's the Friends principle, 6.
6, yeah. So between 6 to 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's been the reaction of some of the local parishes to you?
Yeah, well, I can speak to a couple parishes that they've really engaged in. So St. Moses the Black Orthodox Mission Parish they feel like their parish has been transformed. I mean, they're a small mission parish, so to have like 6 young adults who chant, who volunteer, who are there at every service has just been remarkable for them. And they really say it's just brought great life to the community. But they've also been going to an OCA parish on Wednesdays that holds Vespers, and then they host a Bible study afterwards. And so that priest, you know Father Tom Soroka, he hosts a podcast on Ancient Faith Radio. He has loved having them. I think I'm sure you know from your community, and he was telling me there are a lot of young people here of like all ages, just what life, you know, young people and young adults can bring, especially when they're welcomed with, like their ideas and questions are embraced. So there's just been a lot of gratitude from the clergy and from the parishes that they've engaged in.
Seems very monastic-like.
Yeah.
I like the idea of that, and that seems like a really cool program.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the communal living comes in many ways from our monastic tradition. Different than a monastery. We're not, we don't require them to do like all the hours.
They don't keep the midnight office.
They do not. At least not that I'm aware of.
They could, some people, yeah.
But certainly the element of being like really responsible for one another in many ways and living together, eating all your meals together, definitely is within the spirit of that tradition.
Did they stay part of the organization afterwards? I mean, is there a way to, an alumni network?
Yes. Well, they're not alums
Yeah,
yet,
not
so
yet.
we'll see, but that's the plan, is
Yeah.
that we will continue to support them after the program, because I think with a lot of times with programs like this, and even, I used to work for Crossroad, which is a summer program, it's like this intense experience, and then oftentimes there can be this drop off, and like, how do I integrate what I've learned into my life? And so we really want to be part of their journey after the program, through staying connected with them, either Zoom, with like monthly meetings with them, depending on where they live, hosting retreats, and then also really encouraging them to develop like service opportunities wherever they end up. So we're calling them alumni projects, and that's still being formed. We're still thinking through how that might unfold. But it's something that we really want them to be able to continue in this spirit of service when they finish the program. That's a great question. And I'm so sorry, I didn't ask your names. Some of you I met at the beginning, but I'd like
Nate for short.
Nate. It is nice to meet you.
Andy.
Andy, yes.
Serafima.
Anthony.
Kelly?
Aaron or somebody can do me.
Oh, wonderful. Father Tom. Yes. Wonderful. Any other questions?
Just looks over there.
So if, I'm just wondering, like in that gap year, if they're planning to go on to like an MA program or their career afterwards, can they take classes online and things like that, or is it just you're doing the OVC project?
That's a great question. We hosted an info session last night for prospective applicants, and someone asked that. So we discourage any really serious commitment outside of the program just because it's pretty rigorous.
Mm-hmm.
However, we asked the cohort, and they felt like they could take one class.
Right.
Because outside of the Monday through Friday, what we have, their service and seminar, really the way they spend their time is kind of up to them. Obviously, like I said, really hope they're engaging in church, and which they are. But we've had some folks who've said, what if would it be okay for me to work at a coffee shop on the weekends, to make some extra money if I needed to, or take some classes because I'm applying to graduate school. And we really want to be supportive of their life after OVC. And so if taking one online class is something that would aid in that process, then we want to be able to work with them to do that. And I think it would be possible. Right now, in this current cohort, no one has any major kind of part-time commitment outside of it. So I think it will be interesting to see if someone does come and do that. We'll have data to say whether or not that was too much.
Yeah.
But for now, we think it might be possible.
Are most cohorts right now living in Pittsburgh, but are they from that area?
No. So this first cohort, They are from Oklahoma, Tennessee, Massachusetts, Georgia, and
And some more.
somewhere else. It's somewhere else. Because 2 of them are from Tennessee. Oh, Minnesota. So, and this year we've got a couple folks applying from California, which is exciting. I was really wanting to get some like real West Coast folks to participate. So.
You may have said this already, but a childless but married couple, could they apply together, or is it only for single people?
They could.
Okay.
I think there would be some like
You'd have to
logistical things that
logistically
we
figure it out,
really
yeah, sure.
need to work out. Certainly, and we have not had anyone express interest to
Right, yeah.
marry, but we certainly wouldn't not. I don't think entertain them applying.
You could offer them a discount, they get married halfway through.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, just curious,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if that applies to anybody, but
Yeah, you never
it's a
know.
thought, yeah.
So, you might have covered this, but considering what the things they deal with, like the homelessness, and I'm sure it's gotta be hard to see a lot of that stuff. Is there anyone that kind of is there if they're like, any sort of counseling or any sort of like, if they need someone to talk to, or is that kind of more like a parish priest that's around, or how does that?
That's a great question, and you're right. They oftentimes, like not often, but can experience. So, like for example, one of our core members works at the Neighborhood Resilience Project, and his first week, he had someone come in. So he's a person who, when people walk in who might be in crisis, looking for support, he then directs them to the variety of services that their nonprofit offers, or helps them find shelter for the evening because of partnerships with local shelters. And this man came in, he witnessed a very difficult thing in his home the night before, was kicked out, came to Noah and in distress, and Noah had called all the shelters in the area and none of them were available, and he had to say to him, you might have to sleep on the street tonight, but like did everything that he could in that moment to just listen to him and be with him, and that was really hard for Noah. And so one of the things that's been really important to us is providing a variety of supports for them in this. So that comes from like myself and my colleague Michael have a very strong relationship with the cohort that should anything happen, they can reach out to us. And both of us have training. I am theologically trained. My colleague has been working with young adults for years in leadership development and support. So we certainly provide support in that area. There's some clergy in the area who have really taken on support to the cohort. Father Paul Abernathy, who is their parish priest, has been really involved in supporting them. But we've also provided them with a couple of training opportunities. So they've gone through mental health first aid training so that they can be equipped with how to handle some of these crisis situations, as well as taking a trauma 101 class when you are responding to trauma. And then we have reserved within our budget support for mental health counseling if that's something that they're interested in. And we've connected with the Assembly of Bishops put out a list of Orthodox mental health counselors. So they're folks who are trained in either social work or psychology, but they're Orthodox. And we have partnered with, not partnered, but we have 5 of them who have said, should your core members ever, need support in any way, we'd be happy to connect with them. And so we've provided the cohort with their contact information, should that be a service they would like to, take advantage of. And we would, support them in that.
That's very good.
questions? I guess I would just love to hear from your community
Ooh, can I ask one more? I'm sorry.
yes.
Are there requirements for, how long somebody has been in the church? If they were just received, do you want them to have been an Orthodox Christian for a year or 2 years or anything like that?
Nope, and actually, they don't have to be Orthodox to participate
Oh,
in
okay,
the program.
okay. There you go.
So, they need to know that it's a thoroughly Orthodox program.
Yeah, sure.
But actually, when we accepted them, 2 of our core members were catechumens.
Oh, cool.
And they were chrismated or baptized right before the program started,
Oh, very cool.
of their own timing.
Yeah.
But no, there's no requirement in that sense.
Okay.
I guess I would just be curious to end to hear from you all, based on your experience, either, being related to young adults, being a young adult yourself, having maybe friends, family, is OBC something that you think responds to a need? Is there resonance in what we're trying to do here?
I think I had some thoughts during the video, I've been to Pittsburgh, I used to travel with a band, everyone's probably tired of hearing that, and so,
I've never
beat me after. So one of the places we went to was Pittsburgh, and I think out of the entire US, that's my favorite city.
Wow.
I was I think we were catechumens at the time, and I know there was an Orthodox church somewhere, there was a few of them, and I don't know, something about the city is it seems like it's a really good place to do it at, and like you mentioned, there are other Christian communities that do this sort of thing, but the Orthodox Church has not done that, and I think it's definitely important that seems really important, because not many people know about Orthodoxy, and we definitely, like you mentioned, St. Basil, and I don't know, it just seems like a very good thing, like a really good idea. So.
Glad to hear that. Pittsburgh has a really interesting history with Orthodoxy. It's actually, I don't know the actual statistics, but there are a lot of Orthodox churches in Pittsburgh. There was a huge immigrant population, like Eastern European, Middle Eastern, and Greek, and they were really involved in the steel industry, and it was just really at one point there was an extremely high population in Pittsburgh of Orthodox Christians.
I wouldn't say it's still, of major cities in the United States, I think it is still the highest percentage of Orthodox Christians
Yes,
of major cities in the United States.
I think you're right about that.
There's a street, and there's many streets in Pittsburgh, I'm sure, but there's this one particular street that I remember pretty vividly. I don't remember the name of it, but it was in a really right in the city. At the end, or toward the end that I could see over this hill, there was this, I think it might have been a Ukrainian church, and had all these gold domes and things. And I saw something not too long ago about there's a Russian church and a Ukrainian church right next door to each other, and they're very close with each other, even considering all that's going on.
Yeah.
And they support each other, and so I don't know. It's just something I thought about.
Yeah, it's a very pan-Orthodox community. They have a really strong clergy brotherhood, where clergy of all the different jurisdictions meet, I think, quarterly, to inform each other what's going on, support each other, and so it's just been a really wonderful place to launch the program.
Regarding me, I think I said this when we were announcing this on Sunday, it was, I know that there are so many other groups who do this kind of thing. I specifically, the one everybody kind of points to is the gold standard is the Mormons. You know, they've got that, the 2-year mission that they're all super
Right,
known
right.
for. And it was just sort of, I think it's an idea that's floated in so many people's head. It's like, why can't we do the same thing? And I remember, I mean, it literally was half a lifetime ago, but I do remember being in my early 20s and not necessarily feeling, I did not know what I wanted to be when I grew up, you know, even after having finished college. And it wasn't that I was aimless, it was that I had nothing to aim at. And I think this is the type of program that's very grounding, that allows you to go out and actually practice your faith. Growing up, you kind of hitch your wagons to your parents' faith in some ways. And so in your late teens, in your early 20s, God willing, you know, somebody's faith becomes their own. And I think this is such a wonderful way to go out and grow your faith, practice your faith, build or grow some deep roots. And so I do think, I think, God willing, I hope it will grow, because I think this is exactly what a lot of people have been hoping for and asking for in the church. We'll certainly support you in any way we can. Hopefully by sending people. I mean, that's the
Yes.
ideal. I would
Yes.
ultimately love to send our own folks.
Well, I was gonna say, you know, in terms of your involvement, you may be thinking like, okay, we're in Pomona, this is happening in Pittsburgh, but, you know, a few ways that you could get involved. The first is pray for us. This is really, we need prayers. It is, there's a lot that makes this run, and ultimately it runs on the prayers of our community. The second is to spread the word. As a new organization, we're really trying to get the word out about just who we are and what's happening. So if you would like more brochures and pass them out, I don't know if you have like a church bulletin that you could, you know, hang it up on, or if you have friends at other parishes, you know, that's one way. We're also on social media. You can share our posts. As I said, you can nominate some young adults to the program, and even though applications are due in a week, you can nominate someone tomorrow and we'll reach out to them tomorrow. So hopefully there's, you know, they could get working on an application. And then, you know, the fifth way is if you know, are in a position to make any sort of contribution to the organization, we would be grateful. Really, anything and everything counts. But those are just any of the ways in which you could engage in getting more involved with the program. So
I have a question. Coming from an evangelical background, I knew that there was some sort of Orthodox church, but I really didn't know what it was. And the first time I came across it was when I went to Jerusalem.
Oh wow.
And not it was Bethlehem.
Oh.
And I go,
That's one place to gather
so we get to go to those Greek guys, you know. So you know that was kind of like my
Right.
And I only found out about Orthodoxy only because I was running a philosophy chat room, and also this guy came over and invited me to Orthodoxy, and we started talking, and I was already looking for a way out of evangelicalism, but so my question is, how everybody knows who the Mormons are, everybody knows who Jehovah's Witnesses are, everybody knows who evangelical and Roman Catholic are. How do you make a program grow when people in the United States really don't understand what Orthodoxy is? And that they don't even understand its original church, and that we are the ones who voted putting together the Bible. It seems like in the United States the Bible is almost like the Quran. It magically came out of nowhere. It didn't. It was written by people and it got put together by the church. It's a totally different viewpoint that people don't understand.
So is your question how do we grow Orthodoxy in America through this program?
Yeah, because there has to be a base of communication on what Orthodoxy is. It's missing from our society.
Yeah. Well, I think I would answer that in a couple of ways. The first is that, like, when we think about growing orthodoxy, I think part of it is reclaiming an understanding of Orthodox service that really can ground young adults. Like, first we want to make sure that the young adults that are within the Orthodox community not only just like stay Orthodox, but engage fully in the life of the church. And so that's something that's really important to us, is that we are forming young adults for a lifetime of service and commitment to the church and service to the church and the world. So I think that's one area that's really important to us. And the way in which we do that is our seminars on Friday, there's actually, like, we bring in Orthodox theologians to teach about the faith and how, so like we do check-ins, but we also are teaching them about the faith because we want them to be able to take ownership of it. So I think that, well, yes, we want Orthodoxy to grow. We also want our own Orthodox to be able to, like, understand their faith and take ownership of it. I don't know if any of you have felt this way, but like sometimes it can be hard to, like, there's just such a depth within Orthodoxy that you could spend your lifetime learning about it and not know enough. And our journey of uniting ourselves to Christ, which is our ultimate purpose, I mean, you know, we want to strengthen them in that journey and have them understand their telos, their end goal of union with God. So, like, that's the first thing. But then the second thing is, I mean, I think that it's important that, you know, we do have Orthodox Christian Mission Center. Like, there is an organization and there are ministries within different metropolises and regions that focus specifically on evangelization, and that's really important. OVC's model, I would say, is like faith in action, such that, like, we want, and it's been beautiful. I think a lot of the people that they're serving, our core members, don't hide that they're Orthodox. They don't not talk about it, but they're serving the immediate needs of those who are right in front of them. And in many ways, by virtue of them being the presence of Christ to that person, and in a distinctly Orthodox way, we've seen that people have, like, asked them about their faith tradition and where they come from. So it's just kind of happening, and it's not a like a proselytizing. That is not the intention with which we are having our young adults go out into these communities to serve, but really just being, to the best of their ability, the hands, the feet, the eyes, the ears of Christ for whoever's in front of them. And if those people are interested in learning more about how and why this person treats them in this way, then, you know, they're welcome to learn about it.
Well, and I would say, because I think, John, you know, you mentioned, like, a lot of people don't know about the church, don't understand about the church, and, you know, everybody knows the Mormons. Well, that's because, you know, two well-dressed guys show up at your house during dinner time. And it's like, but that's what they know about the Mormon church. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we had, and I mean, God willing, every major city of the United States, a group of young Orthodox Christians going and just loving and serving those communities. And if that's what people end up, if that's their first encounter with the church, as opposed to, because my first encounter was also in Jerusalem with the Orthodox Church, or Bethlehem, I'm sorry, yeah, which is funny. I've been,
Oh my gosh.
but, like, to me, I was like, oh yeah, cool, guys in funny hats, like, and I never knew how much I loved the hats, you know, again, but again, if that's their first encounter with the church, what better way to encounter the church than young, passionate, in the best way possible, Christians who are there to serve the people who need to be served the most.
And I'll rephrase my question. I guess I have a view of the Orthodox people walking around knocking on doors. I want to get that out of my head.
Yeah.
How do you with these young adults? how do you share your faith? How are you serving the community? I mean, are you, just walking down the street? Are you
Oh.
feeding people? I mean, what's different from this, from what the Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses are doing?
Right. So, so each of them work 4 days a week at a nonprofit. And so one of them works at a homeless shelter and is serving the drop-in homeless shelter. One of them is working at a free medical clinic, so serving the uninsured or underinsured and connecting them with medical services that they need. Two of them are working at after-school programs that serve low-income and children who come from difficult home lives. One of them works at, like I said, the Neighborhood Resilience Project and does, connects the folks who come in off the street to various services. He also runs a backpack program for kids, distributes food that are donated. They have a pantry. And then each of them are also helping the nonprofits that they work at with, they're learning how to write grants. They're learning how to, some of them are helping their nonprofit with their social media accounts to kind of get the word out about their program. So they're doing direct service to populations that are suffering and most vulnerable. So that's what they're doing. That's how they are living out their faith. But then they share their faith with one another, and we talk about faith in our Friday seminars, and then they're living it. In many ways. Does that make sense?
That is a lot better.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Great, yeah.
Yeah, the images of these guys knocking on the door are.
No,
it's
that's
never
definitely
removed
not
from my brain.
happening. Yeah.
I have a quick question. So when thinking about the young adult population, starting around 17 to your cohorts at 21.
Mm-hmm.
So do we have I'm trying to think of how many pan-Orthodox groups we have. We have OVC, Yes, Orthodox, OCF. Do you guys ever get together and decide, okay, you guys take this group, this age group, we'll do this age group, because there's needs at each step. There's a need pre-college or
Right.
not, or just not going to college, or just
Right.
ready
Yep.
to go out into the world, and there's the college age need, and
Yeah.
then there's this other young adult
Yeah.
after college.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great question. We have definitely been in communication and collaboration with other Orthodox ministries. That's been really important to us, that we are filling a void and not doing something with another organization is already serving that population. And really, in many ways, all these programs kind of build off of one another, all these ministries. So we actually did a map of all of the Orthodox ministries that exist across jurisdictions for young adults in the 21 to 29 range, and then specifically what long-term opportunities there are, because there are none, is what we've discovered.
Right.
The longest opportunity for a young adult between 21 to 29 to participate in is serving as a camp counselor
Right.
at their local camp. Or if they were interested in becoming a missionary, I mean, that's a whole process in and of itself, in terms of long term. So we actually discovered that there was a great need, and there were some people who said there are a lot of students who graduate from high school who are looking for a gap year program.
Yeah.
Why don't you serve the post high school before college, because a lot of it seems to be very common. And we felt like there were a lot of services and opportunities for that age range, and that there was just this gaping hole. We also felt that for the type of work we were wanting to do,
Yeah.
there's a certain level of maturity that was needed, and so being 21, minimum 21, was really important to us. That developmentally, having studied youth and young adult ministry, I know that developmentally there's a big difference between 18-year-old and a 21-year-old. So, we're very close with Katrina Bitar, who runs Yes, and Kenny Kidd, who's the executive director of Focus. He actually serves on our board. So we work with, and we've worked with OCF too, on a number of occasions. So we're really trying to work collaboratively with these organizations.
So one of the things I like best about what you do is I still remember, I became a Christian when I was 17. I still remember the first sermon I heard. It was a guy so committed to foreign missions and stuff. He'd sacrificed his life. He'd given up everything. I thought, oh, that's the Christian faith. I didn't know any better. But it excited me so much. And just that challenge, you know, young people tend to be idealistic, and if they're very fortunate, they won't lose it when they get older, but a lot of times we kind of beat it out of them. So I think it's so exciting to have something idealistic that young people say, I'm gonna give up a year. Just, you know, it's a tremendous opportunity you're offering.
Thank you.
I would definitely, I think, or at least to be encouraging, if this opportunity had come by me, if I had been within that age group and like not married, I definitely would have jumped on it. I would have wanted to do it. I can't, sorry.
I'm glad to hear that. No, that's great. And you're not the only one who said that. We've had a lot of people who have said, man, I wish this was around when I was that age because I totally would have done it.
Yeah.
Or folks who did, like we have some, a young adult we know who did the Lutheran Volunteer Corps when he was Orthodox, but he really wanted to do it. So he did the Lutheran Volunteer Corps. A couple Orthodox who did the Jesuit Volunteer Corps, which is a Catholic program. And then a number who, and they reached out to us and said, oh my gosh, like this is finally happening. Because they were so committed to doing a program like this that they were willing to do it in, you know, another, in the context of another Christian community while still being Orthodox. So I'm really glad to hear that you feel that way.
In the church that I grew up in as a Protestant, we had opportunities like this, and so in my mind, I've always wanted my kids to have like these kind of opportunities, like where they can, you know, when they don't have all the responsibilities of life, they can kind of throw themselves into something and you know, commit for a small amount of time, you know. And so when I heard about it, I was very excited. And we're still friends with a lot of the people we grew up with, and I'm seeing their children go off and do those things that we did when we were young. And it's like, wow, there's nothing like that for us. But so I'm really thankful for this opportunity.
Thank you all so much for your time on a Monday evening. I know it's no small thing to give of your time and open your church, and we're very grateful. Thank you, Father Thomas and Andy.
Thanks, Andy, for putting it together.
Yeah. If it's okay, I'd love to take a photo with you all.
It'd be wonderful.
We try to spread the word that we're, you know, visiting parishes. So. Yeah, that would be great.
I didn't do my hair before.
Why don't we, what's that?
I said we jumped on a haircut for
Oh, yeah,
I
that's
wonder,
true.
is there a way to set a timer up that way?
I can take one.
Oh, I'd love for you to be in it. Okay. Unless you don't want to, it's also totally fine, because I would like to be able to share this on social media, so if you don't want that, I totally get it.
I can say I could take one and then maybe someone but that would not, I don't know if that would work.
Okay.
Or John, do you want to take the picture, or do you want to be in it?
I am taking a picture.
Tell you what, my wife and daughters are representing me. I'll take a picture.
Okay, there you go. All
Do you
right.
mind if you take one?
They're
of my
better
photos?
looking than you anyway.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, they represent my family much better than
I'm sorry, I was joking about.
You wanna-
taking
Yeah,
a
why don't
picture.
we just, yeah.
I'm tall, I can be in the back somewhere.
Okay,
Sure.
okay.
Come in the front.
I don't want, why am I in the middle though?
Guess I'll lean.
I learned this trick from
wow.
William here. Hang on. Get the lights in.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Take a look. We still got time to fix it.
Oh,
No,
it's
I'm good.
great. It's great. Thank you.
All right, so we're so glad to have you.
Thank you. And I will, I'm happy to,
Do you want to leave some brochures? We can
Yes.
kind of keep them.
yep,
You
Yep.
can,
you can keep,
take care of this.
keep as many as you
Awesome,
like.
yeah.
And then I can, get your email from Andy and then send you the nomination form. That would be, great, if you wanna, pass it around, you can also find it online, but I'm happy to send you the link directly.
Yeah, that would be great, I'm happy to have it. And now I just have to ask you, how wonderful is Ella Powers?
Oh my gosh, she's the
Didn't
best,
you know
wait,
that?
how do you know her?
We went to the same parish in Oklahoma, before I went to seminary, we were in the same parish, so I know her family, yeah, I just got to see her mom's the president of the parish council, so about
Maybe to Tommy
2
after.
or 3 weeks ago, I got to see Katie at the special convention. And
Oh my
Be nice
gosh,
to
okay, wait, then I will have to ask, would you mind taking a picture of the
Oh,
two
of
of us,
course,
because
yeah.
I'd love to send it to her.
Yeah,
She is amazing.
yeah, she is
Better than most, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, these are,
Yeah, we should set it up, go there for 10 minutes, and then go to
Ready, 1, 2,
I should keep on.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, she's super sweet, her whole family, they're all great,
Yeah,
they're all just kinda awesome.
yeah.
But I remember when she left for college, her dad was like, cause she has 4 siblings, and her dad was just like lamenting the fact that she's like, he's like the nicest member of our family.